The SARS-CoV-2 pandemic is an extremely complicated and difficult time. Each week forces us to muster strength to deal with the new challenges, both predictable and unforeseen. As individuals, it is difficult to navigate our role in the uncertainty. It is easy to find stories of suffering and news of great alarm. It can be more difficult to find peace and inspiration. At Tummydrops, we have met incredible people over the past 10 years with stories of care and perseverance. Each of us has an amazing narrative, and we would like to share some of these stories in a new series we call Our Heroes. Over the next months, expect both written and video interviews with some of our heroes. Today's guest is
Hi, Lauren. How are you?
Hello.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, Dustin. It's a pleasure to meet you in quasi-person.
I know, right? It's nice to meet you too, Dustin. I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I really just recently started kind of my own business, kind of within the cancer community, and really it all kind of started 2015. I was diagnosed with stage 3 triple positive breast cancer. I'm also BRCA positive. It runs in my family, but I wouldn't know until later that other members of my family had it. When I was in my teens, my grandmother had passed from breast cancer, knew that she had it, and then it went away, came back, and metastasized, but nobody talked about that. Nobody talked about that the cancer was now in her bones, and no one talked about, what that really meant as, family and genetics, and it really just kind of went away. And so I was diagnosed at 29, so it was really, kind of young for someone to be diagnosed with cancer, and so really no one kind of knew kind of where to go from there. So I had found three lumps, 2 on my breast and 1 on my right armpit. And so I found it doing yoga, didn't think too much of it, thought I just pulled something, no big deal. But I did know about the breast cancer that my grandma had, so I kind of went there, but I thought, no, not me. And I just kind of pushed it aside. But I went and got it checked, and the nurse practitioner kind of gave me that, like, no, you're too young. I don't think that's really anything. But we'll keep an eye on it, and I'll write you an order for an ultrasound. At the time, I just was super busy. There was no urgency made, so I put an urgency behind it. And so I kind of put it off until I got a call from the doctor's office saying, hey, we see you haven't gotten, your test done, just checking in. And I thought, okay, maybe I need to go get this ultrasound done. So I went and had the ultrasound done, had a mammogram, had 3 biopsies, all within like an hour.
Yeah, it happened quick.
Yeah, super quick. And I was by myself, so it was just kind of a whirlwind of a day. But would find out a few days later, they would confirm it. And then I started with chemotherapy. Even before that, I should state that I went through in vitro to preserve eggs and embryos, which was tough because you're like put on that spot of like, okay, you'd have to decide if you want kids, if you don't want kids, you also have cancer, so like, let's get this started. And so I went through everything for preserving my eggs, started chemotherapy. Symptoms were bad, but I never got truly sick. As I had mentioned, I just got pretty nauseous, but lost my hair. And that was probably the hardest thing initially for me. I was like, okay, losing my breasts. I was like, I'm not attached to them. They now have cancer, like get rid of them. But the hair was tough until later on. And then I got to, I kind of saw a different side of like, okay, like hair doesn't necessarily make you who you are. And,
Right.
I think I learned a lot kind of through the process too. So after 6 rounds of chemotherapy, initially, and then I continued because I was HER2 positive. I continued with Herceptin for a year. And then I had a double mastectomy and reconstruction, and then 30 days of radiation. So I kind of went through, a full year of treatment, and I got through it. I think it was like a blur, but I think I'd like put my blinders on and just said like, let's go, let's beat this, like let's be done with it. And then survivorship comes, and my support team was very small initially. So now my support team got even smaller because everyone thinks you're okay. Everyone says you're done with treatment, you've had your surgeries, but like this is the time when you need support the most, and people don't realize that. They're like, oh, you look healthy. And so I struggled a lot. And kind of around this time, I was like back and forth with figuring out jobs, figuring out how we wanted to grow our family. And then also just mentally trying to understand what had just happened like over the past year. And unfortunately around this time as well, I had friends call and say, I have a friend that was just diagnosed, or I myself have been diagnosed. And so I kind of became this support for a lot of people, but I still didn't have the support for myself. And so I was trying to, support them, but trying to be okay myself. And and so I just kind of felt like while I went through my treatment and surgeries, I had the little support, but then from a resource standpoint, it wasn't until after all of my treatments that I found out about organizations that were there to support you. I had known a little bit about some organizations that were doing group sessions and group therapy, but that really wasn't me. That wasn't kind of how I felt that I needed to get support. I'm more of a one-on-one person. And so, but I would later find like these organizations where they were taking you on adventure trips or wellness trips or things that like I started to, once I found out about them and go on them, like that's where I found my support. So there's True North Treks or First Descents, and those two organizations have been great resources for me. But I didn't find out about it until after. So I thought, well, how many other people are like not finding out until after? And so I felt that I needed to share my story, but I also felt that I needed to compile resources and support events and products like kind of within one whole space, because I didn't have that. And while I wish I would have had that, like I wanted to be able to provide that to others out there. So in 2019, I started Live and Let, and turned into a blog where I share my experience. I share product recommendations, products that I used during my treatment, but also those that I kind of found over the past 5 years, kind of wishing I had. And, and I would later find out that some of them existed, but just either friends and family didn't know where to find them, or the resources at the hospital, didn't provide them. It was, and I think kind of then it was kind of a social media world, but I just wasn't big into social media. So I wasn't kind of looking for like support through Instagram. But now that's huge. So, So while I started Live and Let, it was going great. And, I felt like I was building this support community, but really my passion has always been kind of in the creative space and giving back.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, what can I do to help support the cancer community? Not just the patient, but the previvors and the caregivers too. My sister is a previvor. She's BRCA positive. She also had surgery. And so I thought, well, she needed support then and still needs it now, because she'll still go through the same things from a BRCA standpoint that I so I kind of tried to marry the two of gift giving and giving back, and supporting those affected by cancer through Give. And so Give is a personalized, curated care and create service. And so really just kind of taking the items that are already out there. I've partnered with organizations who were founded by cancer survivors as well. And so wanting to kind of create this luxe gifting experience. And so get an actual crate, which I like to call it my cancer or crap crate. Just put all of your cancer stuff in. I always felt like my wig was here, my scarves were here, my meds were here. And so giving them this crate that they can just throw their cancer life in and shut the door. And then within there, the person who reaches out, who wants to give the gift, they will work directly with me in providing kind of the recipient's cancer, the stage that they're in, kind of what their budget is. And I will kind of go through my inventory, and even if I don't have it, I will find what I think, would benefit or bring comfort to, their loved one. And so I launched that officially on June 1st. I've done a few.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So I've done a few crates for some others within the community. Prior to fully launching, I donated a couple just to kind of get the name out. So yeah, I'm enjoying it. The one thing that's hard is because I know when someone reaches out, it's that another person's been diagnosed and that, they want to be able to support their loved one. But then I also have to think about the standpoint that I'm grateful that I can be a part of helping to support them. I unfortunately am a cancer survivor, so I know it and I get it. And I don't know all cancers. I don't know what all cancer patients go through, and everybody's experience is different. So I will always take that into consideration. But my hope is that I can at least help the customer support their loved one in the best way that they can. And really, I think even beyond that, I think it's so important from a survivorship standpoint. Let's celebrate the cancerversaries. Let's celebrate the milestones. So it doesn't always have to be, oh, my friend was diagnosed, I want to give them something, but it's my friend is, hit their 5-year mark. I want to give them something. And so that's kind of my hope, is from a positive standpoint, that it's more of the I'm thinking of you and let's celebrate type of gifts after the initial they've been diagnosed gift, which is okay too. So so that's kind of what I've been working on the past few years.